What if the biggest obstacle in your life isn't your situation, but your thinking? What if the confusion, hesitation, and self-doubt that hold you back aren't permanent weaknesses, but simply habits your mind has learned over time? Right now, somewhere in the world, someone with fewer resources than you, fewer opportunities than you, and fewer advantages than you is making a decision that will completely change their life. And the only difference between them and you is one powerful ability: clarity. Clarity in thinking, clarity in action. Most people don't fail because they are not talented. They fail because they hesitate, they overthink, they doubt themselves at the exact moment when they should trust themselves. They stay stuck in confusion while life keeps moving forward without them. But imagine something different. Imagine waking up every day knowing exactly what matters and what doesn't. Imagine making decisions without fear, without hesitation, and without second-guessing yourself every 5 minutes. Imagine a life where your thoughts don't control you, you control them. This book is not just about thinking clearly. It is about taking control of your mind, removing the chaos that clouds your judgment, and learning how to make powerful decisions that move your life forward faster than ever before. Inside this audiobook, you will learn how to declutter your mind, strengthen your decision-making ability, control your emotions during pressure, and build a mindset that naturally moves towards success instead of confusion. If you are tired of overthinking, tired of doubting yourself, tired of feeling stuck while others move ahead, then this audiobook is exactly what you need. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Master the Art of Mental Decluttering. Do you ever feel like your mind is carrying more weight than your body can handle? Like a crowded room where every voice is shouting for attention, yet none of them truly matter? You wake up with intentions, but by the time your day unfolds, you're already overwhelmed, distracted, and mentally exhausted. This isn't because you lack discipline or intelligence. It's because your mind is cluttered, and a cluttered mind can never create a clear life. Your mind is your most powerful asset. It is designed to solve problems, generate ideas, and guide you toward your dreams. But when it is filled with endless noise, unfinished thoughts, regrets from the past, worries about the future, constant notifications, and an overload of information, it begins to lose its true power. Imagine trying to write something meaningful on a chalkboard that is already filled with random scribbles. No matter how hard you try, nothing new stands out. That's exactly what happens when your mind is overloaded. There is no space for clarity, no room for focus, and no energy left for meaningful decisions. Mental clutter doesn't always show up in obvious ways. Sometimes it hides behind overthinking. Sometimes it appears as procrastination, and sometimes it disguises itself as being busy while you're actually avoiding what truly matters. You might find yourself replaying past mistakes again and again, thinking about things you can't change. Or maybe you constantly worry about the future, imagining worst-case scenarios that haven't even happened yet. Add to that the endless distractions from your phone, social media, and responsibilities, and your mind becomes a battlefield instead of a place of clarity. But here's the truth. Clarity is not something you find. It's something you create. The first step to creating clarity is what we call a thought dump. It may sound simple, but it is incredibly powerful. Take a notebook or even a blank page on your phone and write down everything that is in your mind. Don't filter. Don't organize. Just let it all out. Your worries, your ideas, your tasks, your random thoughts. When you transfer your thoughts onto paper, something magical happens. Your mind begins to feel lighter. It's as if you've taken a heavy backpack off your shoulders. You no longer have to carry everything inside your head, because now it exists outside of you. This simple habit alone can instantly reduce stress and bring a sense of calm. Now, once your thoughts are out, the next step is to organize them. Think of your mind as an inbox that is constantly receiving new messages throughout the day. If you never check or organize that inbox, it becomes overwhelming. But when you start sorting things, deciding what needs immediate attention, what can wait, and what can be ignored, you regain control. Ask yourself simple questions. Does this really matter right now? Is this something I can act on, or is it just noise that I need to let go of? This process helps you focus only on what truly deserves your energy. Another powerful habit to clear your mind is creating a morning clarity routine. Before you dive into the chaos of the day, give yourself 10 to 15 minutes of silence and intention. This is your time to reset your mind. You can journal, meditate, or simply sit quietly and think about your top 3 priorities for the day. When you start your day with clarity, you naturally carry that focus into everything you do. Instead of reacting to life, you begin to lead it. But mental decluttering isn't just about adding new habits. It's also about removing what doesn't serve you. One of the biggest enemies of clarity is distraction. Every notification, every unnecessary scroll, every interruption pulls your attention away from what truly matters. And every time your attention shifts, your brain has to work harder to refocus. This constant switching drains your energy and reduces your ability to think clearly. So, start setting boundaries. Turn off notifications that don't matter. Create moments in your day where you are completely disconnected from noise. Protect your focus like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. As you continue this journey, you'll begin to notice something powerful. Your thoughts will become sharper, your decisions will feel easier, and your mind will no longer feel like a chaotic maze, but a clear path guiding you forward. You'll start to focus on what truly matters instead of getting lost in what doesn't. And most importantly, you'll begin to feel in control again. Because a clear mind doesn't just improve your thinking, it transforms your entire life. When your mind is clear, you create better ideas, you build stronger relationships, you make decisions with confidence, and you move toward your goals with purpose and direction. Clarity is not a luxury, it's a necessity. And it starts with something as simple yet as powerful as learning to let go of the noise. So take a moment right now. Pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what is one thing in my mind that I can let go of today? Because the moment you start clearing your mind is the moment you start creating your future. Chapter 2. Unlock the Decision Clarity Gap. Have you ever made a decision so quickly and then almost instantly felt that quiet voice inside you whisper, "That wasn't right"? That moment of regret, that sudden doubt, that sinking feeling in your chest, it doesn't come because you're incapable of making good decisions. It comes because you didn't give yourself the space to make one. Most people live their lives in reaction mode. They respond to situations instantly, speak without thinking, commit without clarity, and act based on emotion rather than intention. And in that rush, they lose something incredibly powerful, the ability to choose wisely. Because the truth is, great decisions are rarely made in a hurry. They are made in moments of pause. Between every situation and your response, there exists a small, almost invisible space. It's easy to miss. Most people don't even realize it's there, but that space holds the key to everything. It's where clarity lives. It's where logic overcomes emotion. It's where intention replaces impulse. This space is what we call the decision clarity gap. The decision clarity gap is not about delaying your life or overthinking every move. It's about slowing down just enough to regain control of your thoughts. Because when you don't pause, your mind automatically falls back on old patterns, fear, doubt, habits, emotional triggers. You react instead of respond. And reactions are often driven by temporary emotions, not long-term vision. Think about the last time you felt pressure to make a decision. Maybe it was a quick yes to something you didn't really want. Maybe it was a purchase you didn't need. Maybe it was an emotional response during an argument. In that moment, Your mind was not clear. It was overwhelmed. And when the mind is overwhelmed, it looks for the fastest escape, not the smartest solution. This is where the power of the pause comes in. When you consciously create even a few seconds of space before reacting, you interrupt that automatic pattern. You give your brain time to shift from emotional thinking to rational thinking. Something as simple as taking a deep breath, closing your eyes for a moment, or counting slowly to 5 can completely change the direction of your decision. That pause may seem small, but its impact is massive. Inside that gap, you gain access to better questions. And better questions lead to better decisions. Instead of asking, "What should I do right now?" you begin asking, "What outcome do I truly want?" Instead of reacting based on fear, you start thinking based on purpose. Instead of choosing what feels easy in the moment, you start choosing what aligns with your long-term vision. Clarity doesn't come from rushing forward. It comes from stepping back, even if just for a moment. Another powerful way to strengthen this gap is by becoming aware of your patterns. Every person has decision habits, some helpful, some harmful. Maybe you tend to say yes when you should say no. Maybe you avoid decisions until it's too late. Maybe you act impulsively when emotions are high. These patterns don't define you, but they do influence you. And the more aware you become of them, the more control you gain over them. When you notice these patterns, the clarity gap becomes your defense system. The next time you feel that familiar urge to rush, to react, to decide instantly, you pause, you recognize the pattern, and instead of repeating it, you choose differently. That is how transformation begins, not in big dramatic changes, but in small intentional pauses. Visualization can also become your ally in this space. When you're standing at a decision point, take a moment to imagine the outcome of each choice. See yourself living with that decision. Feel what it would be like. Does it bring you peace or pressure, growth or regret, alignment or confusion? Your mind is powerful enough to simulate the future, and when you use that ability, you make decisions that are not only logical, but deeply aligned with who you want to become. And then there are micropauses, the small, everyday moments where you train your brain to slow down before replying to a message, before agreeing to a request, before making a quick choice. These tiny pauses may seem insignificant, but over time, they reprogram your mind. They teach you to act with intention instead of impulse. They turn clarity into a habit. The decision clarity gap is not about being perfect. It's about being aware. It's about giving yourself the respect of a moment before you decide something that could impact your life. Because every decision you make is shaping your future, whether you realize it or not. And here's the most powerful part. The more you practice this gap, the more natural it becomes. What once required effort starts to feel automatic. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to feel more in control. And slowly, the chaos that once dominated your thinking starts to fade away. Because when you learn to pause, you learn to see clearly. When you learn to see clearly, you learn to choose wisely. And when you learn to choose wisely, you begin to create a life that truly aligns with who you are meant to be. So the next time life puts you in a moment of decision, remember this: you don't need to rush. You don't need to react. All you need to do is pause. Chapter 3, The Power of Decision Sprints. Why do big decisions feel so heavy, so overwhelming, so paralyzing that even thinking about them makes you want to avoid them completely? It's not because you're incapable. It's not because you lack clarity. It's because your mind is trying to solve everything at once. When faced with a major decision, whether it's changing your career, starting something new, ending something that no longer serves you, or stepping into the unknown, most people fall into a mental trap. They try to predict every outcome, control every variable, and guarantee success before even taking the first step. And in doing so, They overwhelm themselves to the point where they take no action at all. This is where people get stuck. They wait for perfect clarity. They wait for complete certainty. They wait until they feel ready. But that moment rarely comes, because clarity is not something you find before action. It's something you build through action. And this is exactly where decision sprints change everything. Instead of trying to solve an entire problem in one go, decision sprints allow you to break it down into small, manageable steps. You stop thinking in terms of the whole journey and start focusing on the next move. And the moment you shift your focus from everything to just one step, the pressure disappears. Imagine standing at the base of a mountain, looking at the peak. It feels impossible. It feels far. It feels overwhelming. But if instead of staring at the entire mountain, you focus only on the next step in front of you, suddenly it becomes manageable. Then one step becomes two. 2 steps become 10. And before you realize it, you are already climbing. That is the power of decision sprints. The first step in a decision sprint is defining the core question. Not 10 questions, not every possible scenario, just one clear, focused question. What is the most important thing I need to figure out right now? When your mind has clarity on the question, it naturally begins to find clarity in the answer. But when your mind is scattered across multiple questions, confusion takes over. Once you define the core question, the next step is gathering information, but not endlessly. One of the biggest mistakes people make is over-researching. They believe that more information equals better decisions. But in reality, too much information leads to analysis paralysis. You start doubting everything. You start second-guessing yourself. And eventually, you stop moving altogether. Decision sprints teach you to gather just enough information to take the next step, not the final step, just the next one. Because progress is not built on perfection. It's built on movement. And then comes the most powerful part. Testing small decisions. Instead of committing to a huge life change immediately, you create small experiments. If you're thinking about starting a business, you don't quit your job overnight. You test the idea on the side. If you're thinking about a new career, you explore it through learning, networking, or small projects. These small actions give you real-world feedback. They replace fear with experience. And experience is always more valuable than imagination. Because most of your fears are based on what you think might happen, not what will actually happen. Decision sprints turn fear into data. They allow you to learn, adjust, and grow without risking everything at once. And as you move through each small step, something incredible begins to happen. You gain momentum. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in life. When you start moving, even slightly, your confidence begins to grow. And as your confidence grows, your decisions become stronger. And as your decisions become stronger, your life begins to change. But there is one more key element that makes decision sprints truly effective: deadlines. Without deadlines, even small steps can stretch into forever. You tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow, and tomorrow becomes next week, and next week becomes never. Deadlines create urgency. They force you to act. They push you out of hesitation and into execution. Set clear time frames for each step. Give yourself a week to explore an idea, a few days to evaluate your options, a specific day to make a decision. When you put time boundaries around your actions, you eliminate procrastination and create focus. And finally, after each sprint, you pause, not to doubt yourself, but to reflect. You ask yourself, what did I learn? What worked? What didn't? What is my next step? Reflection turns every action into growth. It ensures that each step you take is smarter than the last. Decision sprints are not about rushing your life. They are about moving forward without fear. They are about replacing overwhelm with clarity, hesitation with action, and confusion with direction. Because the truth is, You don't need to have everything figured out right now. You don't need to see the entire path. You don't need to be 100% certain before you begin. All you need is the courage to take the next step. So the next time you find yourself stuck, overwhelmed by a big decision, remember this: you don't need to leap. You just need to sprint. One step, one decision, one moment of courage at a time. And before you realize it, you won't just be thinking about change, you'll be living it. Chapter 4. Rewire your brain for clarity. What if the real reason you struggle to think clearly isn't because life is complicated, but because your brain has been conditioned to work against you? What if the confusion, the overthinking, the hesitation you feel every single day is not who you are, but simply how your mind has been trained over time? Your brain is powerful, far more powerful than you realize. It can create ideas, solve problems, and shape your entire reality. But it also has built-in patterns designed for survival, not success. Patterns that focus on fear instead of opportunity, comfort instead of growth, and certainty instead of possibility. And if you don't consciously train your brain, it will default to these patterns automatically. This is why even when you know what to do, you still hesitate. This is why even when opportunities appear, you still doubt yourself. Because your brain is trying to protect you, not elevate you. But here's the truth that changes everything. Your brain is not fixed. It is flexible. It can adapt. It can evolve. It can be rewired. And once you learn how to rewire your brain, clarity stops being something you chase and becomes something you naturally experience. One of the biggest obstacles to clear thinking is something called negativity bias. Your brain is wired to notice danger more than opportunity. It remembers failures more strongly than successes. It focuses on what could go wrong instead of what could go right. This may have helped humans survive in the past, but in today's world, it often leads to overthinking, fear, and poor decision-making. You might find yourself thinking, what if I fail? What if this goes wrong? What if I regret this decision? And without realizing it, your brain begins building a story around fear, a story that keeps you stuck. To rewire this pattern, you must consciously redirect your focus. Every time your mind moves toward fear, you gently bring it back to possibility. Instead of asking, what if this fails? Ask yourself, what if this works? Instead of imagining the worst outcome, train your mind to visualize the best one. This is not about ignoring reality. It's about balancing your perspective so fear doesn't dominate your thinking. Another silent enemy of clarity is decision fatigue. Every single day, your brain makes hundreds of small decisions. What to wear, what to eat, what to check, what to respond to. And with each decision, your mental energy slowly drains. By the time you face an important decision, your brain is already tired. And a tired brain doesn't think clearly. It looks for the easiest option, not the best one. This is why successful people simplify their lives. They reduce unnecessary decisions so they can focus on what truly matters. They create routines. They plan ahead. They remove small distractions that drain their energy. Because they understand that clarity is not just about thinking better. It's about conserving mental energy. When you reduce the number of trivial decisions in your life, you create space for better thinking where it actually counts. Your brain also relies on shortcuts, mental patterns built from past experiences. These shortcuts, known as habits of thinking, help you make quick decisions. But sometimes they lead you in the wrong direction. You might judge a situation based on something that happened years ago. You might avoid an opportunity because of a past failure. You might assume something won't work simply because it didn't work before. And in doing so, you limit yourself without even realizing it. To break free from these patterns, you must learn to question your own thinking. Ask yourself, am I seeing this situation clearly? Or am I reacting based on the past? This one question can open your mind to new possibilities. It allows you to step outside of automatic thinking and into conscious. Gently bring it back to possibility. Instead of asking, "What if this fails?" ask yourself, "What if this works?" Instead of imagining the worst outcome, train your mind to visualize the best one. This is not about ignoring reality. It's about balancing your perspective so fear doesn't dominate your thinking. Another silent enemy of clarity is decision fatigue. Every single day, your brain makes hundreds of small decisions. What to wear, what to eat, what to check, what to respond to. And with each decision, your mental energy slowly drains. By the time you face an important decision, your brain is already tired. And a tired brain doesn't think clearly. It looks for the easiest option, not the best one. This is why successful people simplify their lives. They reduce unnecessary decisions so they can focus on what truly matters. They create routines. They plan ahead. They remove small distractions that drain their energy. Because they understand that clarity is not just about thinking better. It's about conserving mental energy. When you reduce the number of trivial decisions in your life, you create space for better thinking, where it actually counts. Your brain also relies on shortcuts, mental patterns built from past experiences. These shortcuts, known as habits of thinking, help you make quick decisions, but sometimes they lead you in the wrong direction. You might judge a situation based on something that happened years ago. You might avoid an opportunity because of a past failure. You might assume something won't work simply because it didn't work before. And in doing so, you limit yourself without even realizing it. To break free from these patterns, you must learn to question your own thinking. Ask yourself, am I seeing this situation clearly, or am I reacting based on the past? This one question can open your mind to new possibilities. It allows you to step outside of automatic thinking and into conscious awareness. One of the most powerful tools for rewiring your brain is consistency. Your brain changes through repetition. Every thought you think, every belief you reinforce, every action you take, it all strengthens certain neural pathways. If you constantly think negative thoughts, your brain becomes wired for negativity. If you constantly doubt yourself, your brain becomes wired for hesitation. But if you begin to practice clarity, confidence, and intentional thinking, your brain starts adapting to that instead. This process is known as mental conditioning, and the more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. Simple habits like mindfulness, journaling, and focused reflection may seem small, but they have a powerful impact over time. When you sit quietly and observe your thoughts, you begin to understand them instead of being controlled by them. When you write down your thoughts, you bring structure to your thinking. When you reflect on your decisions, you improve your future ones. These practices train your brain to slow down, process information, and think with clarity. Another powerful technique is cognitive reframing. This means changing how you interpret a situation. Instead of seeing a challenge as a problem, you begin to see it as an opportunity. Instead of viewing failure as something negative, you start seeing it as feedback. This shift in perspective doesn't change the situation, but it completely changes. And when your response changes, your decisions change. As you continue this process, you'll begin to notice something incredible. Situations that once confused you will start to make sense. Decisions that once felt overwhelming will start to feel manageable. And the noise that once filled your mind will begin to fade, because your brain is no longer working against you. It's working with you. Rewiring your brain is not something that happens overnight. It requires patience. It requires awareness. It requires consistent effort. But every small step you take strengthens your ability to think clearly. And the more you train your mind, the more powerful it becomes. Because at the end of the day, your life is shaped by your decisions, and your decisions are shaped by your thoughts. So if you can change the way you think, you can change everything. Start today. Train your mind. Challenge your patterns. Choose clarity over confusion. and watch how your entire world begins to transform. One thought at a time. Chapter 5. Navigate the emotional storm. Have you ever made a decision in the heat of the moment and later wondered, why did I do that? Maybe it was something you said in anger. Maybe it was a choice driven by fear. Maybe it was a reaction you couldn't control. And in that moment, it felt right. It felt justified. But once the emotion faded, clarity returned. And so did regret. This is the power of emotions. They are intense. They are immediate. And if left unchecked, they can completely take over your thinking. Emotions are not your enemy. In fact, they are one of the most powerful guidance systems you have. They tell you what matters. They signal what feels right or wrong. They bring depth to your decisions. But here's the danger. When emotions become too strong, they stop guiding you and start controlling you. Think of emotions like waves in the ocean. When they are calm, they carry you forward smoothly. But when they become stormy, they can throw you off balance, pull you under, and push you in directions you never intended to go. And most people don't know how to navigate that storm. The first step to mastering your emotions is understanding one simple truth. Emotions are not facts. Just because you feel something strongly doesn't mean it reflects reality. You can feel fear even when you are safe. You can feel doubt even when you are capable. You can feel uncertainty even when you are on the right path. Emotions are temporary states, not permanent truths. But in the moment, they feel real, they feel powerful, and they demand action. That's why people react impulsively, because they believe their emotions must be followed immediately. But clarity comes when you create space between emotion and action. The moment you feel a strong emotion rising, pause, not to suppress it, not to ignore it, but to understand it. One of the most powerful techniques you can use in these moments is emotional labeling. When you put a name to what you're feeling, you take away some of its power. Instead of being overwhelmed, you become aware. Say it to yourself clearly. I feel angry. I feel pressured. This simple act creates distance between you and the emotion. It shifts you from being inside the emotion to observing it. And when you observe something, you gain control over it. Another powerful tool is grounding yourself in the present moment. When emotions rise, your mind often drifts either into the past or into the future. You replay what happened. You imagine what could go wrong. And in doing so, you lose connection with reality. Grounding techniques bring you back. Take a deep breath. Slowly inhale, slowly exhale. Feel your body. Notice your surroundings. These small actions calm your nervous system. They tell your brain that you are safe. And when your brain feels safe, it stops reacting and starts thinking. But mastering emotions is not just about calming them. It's about understanding them. Every emotion carries a message. Fear often means something matters to you. Stress often means you need clarity or preparation. Frustration often means something needs to change. When you stop seeing emotions as obstacles and start seeing them as signals, everything shifts. Instead of fighting them, you begin to learn from them. This is where emotional intelligence begins. Instead of asking, how do I get rid of this feeling? You ask, what is this feeling trying to tell me? And sometimes the answer is powerful. Maybe your fear is telling you to prepare better. Maybe your stress is telling you to slow down. Maybe your frustration is telling you to take action. When you listen to your emotions instead of reacting to them, you turn them into tools. There is also something even more powerful: emotional transformation. You can take a negative emotion and turn it into productive energy. Instead of letting fear stop you, you use it to prepare more deeply. Instead of letting anger control you, you use it to set boundaries. Instead of letting anxiety paralyze you, you use it to take focused action. This shift doesn't happen instantly, but with practice, it becomes natural. And as it becomes natural, your decisions become stronger. Because you are no longer reacting from chaos, you are responding with clarity. To build long-term emotional strength, you must create habits that support your mental balance. Your daily lifestyle affects your emotional state more than you realize. Lack of rest, constant stress, and overload can make your emotions harder to control. But when you take care of your mind and body, through rest, reflection, and intentional breaks, you build resilience. Resilience is what allows you to stay steady, even when life is not. And here's something important to remember. No one is emotionally perfect. Everyone feels overwhelmed sometimes. Everyone experiences doubt, fear, and stress. The goal is not to eliminate emotions. The goal is to manage them, to understand them, to navigate them, to use them. Because when you learn to handle your emotions, you unlock a powerful advantage. You stop making decisions you regret. You stop reacting impulsively. You stop being controlled by temporary feelings. And instead, you begin to act with intention. The next time you feel overwhelmed by emotion, remember this. Pause. Name the feeling. Understand the message. And then respond, not react. Because when you learn to navigate the emotional storm, you don't just survive it, you grow stronger because of it. Chapter 6. Create a decision-making ecosystem. What if your ability to think clearly and make powerful decisions has less to do with willpower and more to do with the environment you live in every single day? What if the reason you feel distracted, overwhelmed, and mentally exhausted isn't because you lack focus, but because your surroundings are constantly working against you? Most people try to fix their thinking without ever fixing their environment. They try to force clarity in a space filled with noise. They try to make better decisions while surrounded by distractions. And then they blame themselves when they fail to stay consistent. But here's the truth. Clarity doesn't thrive in chaos. It thrives in the right environment. Just like a plant needs the right conditions to grow, sunlight, water, and space, your mind needs the right ecosystem to function at its best. And when you intentionally design that ecosystem, thinking clearly stops being a struggle and starts becoming natural. The first layer of your decision-making ecosystem is your physical space. Look around you right now. What does your environment feel like? Is it calm and focused, or cluttered and distracting? Because your external environment directly affects your internal state. A messy space creates a messy mind. A noisy space creates a restless mind. When your surroundings are filled with unnecessary items, your brain is constantly processing them in the background. Even if you don't realize it, this drains your mental energy. It reduces your ability to focus, and it makes decision-making harder than it needs to be. Start small. Clear your desk. Organize your space. Remove what you don't need. Add elements that create calm. Maybe a clean layout, soft lighting, or something that inspires you. When your environment feels clear, your mind begins to mirror that clarity. The second layer is your time. Most people fill their day with endless tasks, back-to-back responsibilities, and constant urgency. They move from one thing to another without ever stopping to think. And in that constant motion, they lose clarity. Because clarity requires space. If every minute of your day is occupied, your mind never gets the chance to process, reflect, or reset. And without reflection, your decisions become reactive instead of intentional. This is why it's important to create thinking time, not scrolling time, not distraction time, but intentional silence where you allow your mind to slow down. It could be early in the morning before the world wakes up. It could be late at night when everything is quiet. These moments become your mental reset points. In these moments, your best ideas appear. Your clearest decisions form. Your mind begins to organize itself. The third layer of your ecosystem is the information you consume. Every day, your brain is absorbing content, social media, news, conversations, and most of it is noise. Information overload is one of the biggest reasons people struggle with clarity today. When your mind is filled with too many inputs, it becomes difficult to focus on what actually matters. You must become intentional about what you allow into your mind. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every notification is important. Not every piece of information adds value to your life. When you reduce unnecessary input, your mind becomes quieter. And in that quietness, clarity begins to grow. The fourth layer is your routines. Routines are powerful because they remove decision fatigue. When certain parts of your day are structured, your brain doesn't have to waste energy figuring out what to do next. And that saved energy can be used for more important decisions. A strong morning routine sets the tone for your entire day. It prepares your mind for focus and clarity. An evening routine helps you reflect, reset, and prepare for the next day. These small habits create stability, and stability creates mental strength. The more structured your basic routines are, the more freedom your mind has to think clearly. The fifth layer, and one of the most overlooked, is the people around you. Your environment is not just physical, it is social. The conversations you have, the energy you absorb, the people you spend time with, all of it influences your thinking. If you surround yourself with negativity, doubt, and constant distraction, your mind will slowly adapt to that energy. But if you surround yourself with people who think clearly, act intentionally, and challenge you to grow, your mindset begins to elevate. You don't need a large circle. You need the right circle. People who support your growth. People who question your thinking in a positive way. People who push you toward clarity, not confusion. And finally, the last layer of your ecosystem is your relationship with technology. Technology can either empower you or distract you endlessly. Every notification, every scroll, every interruption pulls your focus away. And the more your focus is broken, the harder it becomes to think deeply. Clear thinking requires uninterrupted attention. It requires presence. Set boundaries with your devices. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Create periods in your day where you are completely disconnected. Use technology as a tool, not as a constant source of distraction. Because every moment of focus you protect strengthens your ability to think clearly. When all these layers come together, your space, your time, your inputs, your routines, your people, and your technology, you create something powerful. You create an ecosystem that supports clarity. And in that environment, decisions become easier. Your mind becomes sharper. Your focus becomes stronger. And your confidence begins to grow naturally. Because you are no longer fighting against your environment, you are working with it. Clear thinking is not just a skill. It is a system. And when you build the right system around your life, clarity stops being something you chase and becomes something you live every single day. Chapter 7. Trust yourself and take decisive action. What if the real reason you feel stuck isn't because you don't know what to do, but because you don't trust yourself enough to do it? Think about it. How many times have you had a clear idea, a strong instinct, a quiet inner voice guiding you in a certain direction, and yet you ignored it? You questioned it. You doubted it. You waited for more validation, more confirmation, more certainty, until that moment passed. And with it, the opportunity. Most people are not lacking clarity. They are lacking trust in their own clarity. They keep searching for the perfect decision, the one with zero risk, the one that guarantees success. But that decision doesn't exist. Every choice in life carries uncertainty. Every path comes with unknowns. And if you wait until you feel 100% sure, you will spend your entire life waiting. Because clarity does not eliminate fear. It simply gives you the courage to move forward despite it. Trusting yourself is not about always being right. It's about knowing that even if you're wrong, you will figure it out. You will learn, you will grow, and that belief alone removes a huge amount of pressure from decision-making. Because suddenly, decisions are no longer about perfection, they are about progress. The truth is, indecision is far more dangerous than making the wrong choice. When you stay stuck, you don't just pause your progress, you slowly lose confidence in yourself. Every time you hesitate, every time you delay, every time you overthink without acting, you send a message to your mind that says, "I don't trust myself." And over time, that message becomes your belief. But the opposite is also true. Every time you make a decision, no matter how small, you build trust in yourself. You prove to your mind that you are capable. You show yourself that you can take action. And that action builds confidence faster than anything else. Confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you create through action. This is why decisive action is so powerful. It breaks the cycle of overthinking. It cuts through doubt. It moves you forward when your mind tries to hold you back. And most importantly, it creates momentum. Because once you start taking action, something shifts inside you. You stop living in your head and start living in reality. And reality always gives you feedback. When you act, you learn. When you learn, you improve. And when you improve, your future decisions become stronger. This is how clarity grows, not through endless thinking, but through experience. There is also something important you must understand. No decision is final. Most choices in life are flexible. They can be adjusted. They can be improved. They can be redirected. But when you treat every decision like it's permanent, you create unnecessary pressure. You make it harder than it needs to be. Instead of asking, "What if this is the wrong decision?" ask yourself, "What will I learn from this decision?" That shift changes everything. Because now, every choice becomes valuable. Every step becomes progress. And fear begins to lose its power over you. Another key to trusting yourself is listening to your intuition. Your intuition is not random. It is built from your experiences, your knowledge, and your subconscious understanding of situations. It often speaks quietly, not loudly like fear, not aggressively like doubt, but calmly. The problem is, most people ignore it. They listen to fear. They listen to overthinking. They listen to external opinions, but they don't listen to themselves. Learning to trust your intuition doesn't mean ignoring logic. It means combining both. You use your mind to analyze and your intuition to guide. When both align, your decisions become incredibly powerful. And even when they don't fully align, you trust that you will handle whatever comes next, because you always do. There will be moments when you feel uncertain. Moments when you don't have all the answers. Moments when the path ahead is not completely clear. But those moments are not a sign to stop. They are a sign to move forward with courage. Because clarity often comes after action, not before it. And the longer you wait, the more difficult it becomes. So start where you are. Make the decision. Take the step. Move forward. Even if it's not perfect, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it feels uncertain. Because every step you take builds something inside you. Stronger thinking, deeper confidence, unshakable self-trust. And one day, you'll look back and realize that the thing you were waiting for was never certainty. It was courage. Courage to trust yourself. Courage to act. Courage to move forward without knowing everything. So the next time you feel stuck, remember this. You don't need more time. You don't need more information. You don't need more validation. You already have what you need. Now all that's left is to trust it and take action. Chapter 8. Build a life of clarity and purpose. What if clarity wasn't just something you used in difficult moments, but something you lived every single day? What if instead of constantly feeling confused, overwhelmed, and uncertain, your life itself became simple, focused, and aligned. Because the ultimate goal is not just to think clearly once in a while. The real goal is to build a life where clarity becomes your default state, where your decisions, your actions, and your direction all come from a place of purpose, not pressure. Most people don't struggle because they can't make decisions. They struggle because they don't know what truly matters to them. They are constantly pulled in different directions. By society, by expectations, by comparison, by fear. And in trying to follow everything, they end up feeling lost. Clarity begins when you decide what matters and what doesn't. Because not everything deserves your time. Not everything deserves your attention. And not everything deserves your energy. When you try to do everything, you lose focus. And when you lose focus, you lose direction. But when you define your priorities clearly, your decisions become easier. You no longer waste time overthinking small things because you know what aligns with your goals and what doesn't. Purpose is what gives clarity its power. Without purpose, clarity has no direction. You may think clearly, but you won't know where to go. But when you combine clarity with purpose, something powerful happens. You begin to move with intention. You stop reacting to life and start designing it. Take a moment and ask yourself, what kind of life do I truly want? Not what others expect from you, not what looks good on the outside, but what genuinely matters to you. What brings you fulfillment? What gives your life meaning? Because once you have that answer, your decisions begin to align automatically. Every opportunity becomes easier to evaluate. Every distraction becomes easier to ignore. Every step becomes more intentional. Another important part of building a life of clarity is learning to say no. Most people say yes too often, not because they want to, but because they feel obligated. They fear missing out. They fear disappointing others. They fear being judged. But every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your purpose, you are saying no to something that does. Clarity requires boundaries. It requires the strength to protect your time, your energy, and your focus. And the more you practice this, the stronger your sense of direction becomes. But clarity is not something you achieve once and keep forever. It's something you maintain. Life changes. Situations evolve. Priorities shift. And because of that, you must regularly reconnect with yourself. Take time to reflect. Take time to evaluate your path. Ask yourself if you are still aligned with what truly matters. This habit of reflection keeps you grounded. It prevents you from drifting into confusion. It keeps your life intentional. There is also something powerful about simplicity. The more complicated your life becomes, the harder it is to think clearly. Too many commitments. Too many distractions, too many unnecessary things pulling your attention. Simplicity creates space, and in that space, clarity grows. Simplify your goals. Simplify your environment. Focus on what truly matters, and let go of the rest. And finally, understand this. Clarity leads to confidence. When you know what you want, when your actions align with your purpose, when your decisions come from a place of understanding, you begin to trust yourself deeply. You no longer feel lost. You no longer feel uncertain. You move forward with a quiet confidence that doesn't need validation because you are no longer guessing your way through life. You are choosing your way through it. Building a life of clarity is not about perfection. It's about alignment. Alignment between your thoughts and your actions. Alignment between your decisions and your goals. Alignment between who you are and who you want to become. And when that alignment happens, life begins to feel different. Lighter, simpler, more meaningful. Because you are no longer chasing everything. You are focused on the right things. So, take a step back and look at your life. Are your decisions aligned with your purpose? Are your actions moving you forward? Or are you simply reacting to whatever comes your way? Because the power to change your life is not in doing more. It's in thinking clearly about what truly matters. And once you have that clarity, everything else begins to fall into place. This is where your journey transforms, not just in how you think, but in how you live. A life of clarity is a life of purpose, and a life of purpose is a life well lived.